Look at the faces around you. Walk through any city on Earth, and you will see something strange hiding in plain sight. Some noses are long and narrow. Others are short and wide. Some point downward. Some rise upward. Some seem perfectly straight, while others curve gently to one side. And yet every one of them is performing the exact same job. Breathing. Which raises a strange question. If humans are one species, why do our noses look so different? Why would nature spend millions of years creating countless variations of something that appears so simple? And perhaps the stranger question is this. When you look into a mirror, are you seeing your nose? Or are you seeing a map of ancient worlds that existed long before you were born? Because hidden in the center of your face is a story that began tens of thousands of years ago. A story written by ice, deserts, forests, mountains, and survival itself. And once you see it, you may never look at a human face the same way again. For most of us, a nose is just a nose. A small feature sitting quietly between the eyes. Something we rarely think about unless we dislike its shape. 1. But beneath that simple appearance lies an extraordinary piece of biological engineering. Every breath you take begins here. The nose warms cold air. It moistens dry air. It filters dust, bacteria, and particles before they reach your lungs. It acts like a sophisticated environmental processing system. Without it, breathing would become far more difficult. Yet if the function is universal, why isn't the design universal too? Why didn't evolution settle on one perfect nose for everyone? At first glance, that seems logical. If one design works best, shouldn't every human eventually end up with it? But nature rarely works that way. Evolution does not create perfection. It creates solutions. And different environments demand different solutions. Imagine standing in the frozen Arctic thousands of years ago. The air is bitterly cold. Every breath feels sharp. Now imagine standing in a hot tropical rainforest. The air is warm and humid. Breathing feels completely different. The same body. The same lungs. But two radically different environments. And suddenly, one nose design may no longer fit all situations. What if your nose was quietly adapting to the world around it? What if climate itself helped shape human faces over thousands of generations? The deeper scientists looked, the more fascinating the answer became. Your nose is not simply decoration. It is part of an ancient environmental system. Every time you inhale, air enters a maze of passages inside the nasal cavity. These passages are lined with tissues filled with blood vessels. As air moves through them, it is warmed, humidified, and cleaned. This process protects the lungs and helps the body maintain balance. But different climates create different challenges. In very cold regions, air must be warmed quickly before reaching delicate lung tissue. In dry regions, moisture must be conserved. In warm humid climates, these challenges become less severe. Over thousands of generations, natural selection began favoring slightly different nose shapes in different environments. People living in colder, drier regions often developed narrower noses. This shape helps create a longer pathway for incoming air. The extra distance gives the body more opportunity to warm and humidify each breath. Meanwhile, populations living in warmer, wetter climates often developed wider noses. The air already contains moisture and warmth, reducing the need for extensive conditioning. Different climates gradually encouraged different facial structures. Not overnight. Not deliberately. But slowly. Generation after generation. A tiny advantage repeated across thousands of years becomes visible on the human face. It is easy to imagine evolution making dramatic changes. Huge claws. Massive horns. Powerful wings. But often, evolution works through subtle adjustments. A few millimeters here. A slightly altered angle there. Tiny differences that become significant over immense stretches of time. The human nose is one of those stories. And its journey begins far before modern civilization. Long before cities. Long before writing. Long before history itself. Imagine a small group of humans leaving Africa tens of thousands of years ago. They walk into unfamiliar landscapes. Some travel north into colder territories. Others move east. 4. Others spread across islands and forests. Every new environment presents fresh challenges. Different temperatures. Different humidity levels. Different winds. Different diseases. Different foods. These travelers do not know they are participating in one of the greatest experiments in Earth's history. But evolution knows. Generation after generation, the environment quietly interacts with genetics. Not choosing perfection. Only increasing survival. Children inherit slight variations. Most changes are small. Almost invisible, yet over thousands of years, those small differences accumulate. Like drops of water carving a canyon. The faces of human populations slowly begin to diverge. Not because they become different species. But because they are adapting to different worlds. And noses become part of that adaptation. A child born today may carry traits shaped by environmental pressures experienced by ancestors who lived thousands of years ago. Think about that. Your face may contain echoes of climates you have never experienced. Your nose may carry the memory of frozen winds, scorching deserts, or humid jungles that existed long before your family records began. In a way, your reflection is a historical document. A living fossil written in flesh. But climate is not the entire story. Humans are more complicated than that. Because unlike most animals, we do not simply adapt biologically. We adapt culturally too. We build homes. We create clothing. We invent tools. We alter our environment instead of only changing ourselves. And this changes the rules of evolution. Once humans learned to make shelters and clothing, certain environmental pressures became weaker. The relationship between climate and survival became less direct. This means that other forces could begin shaping human appearance as well. Chance played a role. Migration played a role. Genetic drift played a role. Sometimes traits become common simply because a population remains isolated for long periods. Sometimes random events influence which genes spread. 6. Nature is not always following a master plan. Sometimes history itself leaves fingerprints on the body. And that brings us to something surprising. Because despite all the differences we notice, human noses are actually incredibly similar. The variation feels enormous because humans are experts at recognizing faces. We notice tiny differences instantly. A slight curve. A subtle angle. A small change in width. But genetically, humanity remains remarkably unified. The distance between different human populations is far smaller than many people imagine. Underneath the visible differences lies an overwhelming amount of shared biology. Every human nose performs essentially the same task. Every human breath follows the same basic journey. Every human body relies on the same ancient respiratory system. The differences are real. But the similarities are much greater. And this leads to a fascinating contradiction. If climate helped shape noses, why do we see so much variation today? Why are there people with very different nose shapes living in the same cities? The answer lies in the modern world. Human populations have mixed extensively. Migration connects continents, families carry ancestry from multiple regions. Genes that once evolved in separate environments now combine in countless ways. The result is extraordinary diversity. A face becomes a meeting point of histories. An intersection of journeys. A visual record of movement across the planet. No single story explains every nose. No simple rule predicts every shape. Reality is Messier, the human face is a living archive, a map written in bone, tissue, and pigment. When we look at someone, we are not just seeing a person in the present, we are gazing into a biological anthology that spans hundreds of thousands of years. The contours of our brows, the width of our nostrils, and the depth of our eyes are not random accidents of nature, nor are they neat, isolated packages of distinct races. Instead, they are the fluid, chaotic, and beautiful results of an epic global migration, an uninterrupted chain of survival, adaptation, and love that knows no borders. For centuries, early anthropologists tried to fit human faces into rigid boxes. They drew arbitrary lines across continents, claiming that certain nose shapes or eye structures belonged exclusively to specific groups. But genetics and modern evolutionary biology have shattered those illusions. Reality is far more complex, interconnected, and beautifully messy. To understand the nose, one must understand the atmosphere. The human nose is, at its core, a sophisticated climate control system. Its primary biological job is to condition the air we breathe before it reaches our fragile lungs, ensuring it is warm and moist. The architecture of the cold, in cold, dry climates, such as the high latitudes of Europe or the frigid steppes of northern Asia, breathing freezing air directly into the lungs can be damaging. Over millennia, natural selection favored narrower, longer nasal passages. This structure increases the surface area within the nasal cavity, allowing the inhaled air more time to contact the warm, moist mucous membranes before traveling deeper into the body. To understand the nose, one must understand the atmosphere. The human nose is, at its core, a sophisticated climate control system. Its primary biological job is to condition the air we breathe before it reaches our fragile lungs, ensuring it is warm and moist. The architecture of the cold, in cold, dry climates, such as the high latitudes of Europe or the frigid steppes of northern Asia, breathing freezing air directly into the lungs can be damaging. Over millennia, natural selection favored narrower, longer nasal passages. This structure increases the surface area within the nasal cavity, allowing the inhaled air more time to contact the warm, moist mucous membranes before traveling deeper into the body. The design of the tropics, conversely, in warm, humid environments, such as the tropical regions of Africa, South Asia, or the Amazon basin, the air is already moist and hot. The body doesn't need to work hard to condition it. Therefore, broader, flatter, and shorter noses became more advantageous, allowing for maximum airflow and efficient cooling of the body. Yet, this is where the simple rules break down. Migration disrupts the perfect equations of climate. What happens when a population adapted to the tropical heat moves to an Arctic region, or vice versa? The traits don't reset overnight. They blend, persist, and travel. A person walking the streets of London today might carry a nose shaped by the humid air of the Niger Delta 10 generations ago, perfectly functioning in a completely different world. The migration of features. Human history is a history of walking. From our shared origins in East Africa, humanity fanned out across the globe, crossing land bridges, navigating vast oceans, and scaling mountain ranges. As we traveled, our features adapted, but more importantly, they mixed. Subscribe to our documentary history channel for more animated historical stories, deep dive human epics, and animations exploring the secrets of our shared past.